Coming up on the Paper Talk today, we're looking at Dan Ashworth. What is going on? When is he going to come here to Old Trafford? Also, Marcus Rashford is pushing back on some of what he calls abuse. Is he right? Let's find out. Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford, and the weather it's one of those weird ones where it's sunny, but it's cold. So don't be lulled into a false sense of security. Make sure you got your parkers on. Loads of stories to get through, so crack on. Before we do, though, make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe. Now, as Britney Spears said, another day, another drama in Manchester United. It looks like the drama at the minute focuses on two people, Marcus Rashford, who I'll get to in a minute, and also Dan Ashworth. What is going on with Danny Boy? When is he coming to Old Trafford? Well, David Ornstein, who is about as reliable can get, he said that basically Manchester United and Dan Ashworth, it looks like it's going to go to sort of court. There's going to have to go to court, and some arbitration is going to have to go on to work out when we can get Dan Ashworth here at Old Trafford. Newcastle are not budging. United aren't budging. There was talk of this £20 million fee to bring Dan Ashworth to Old Trafford. United weren't willing to pay that. Then we were hearing that it was going to be closer to 15 million, then 12. United not going anywhere near that. There was reports that the valuation between the two clubs was about £10 million apart. Obviously, that's not going to happen if you're so far apart from each other on something like a sporting director or whatever. It's different if it's a player. You think 10 million's not that far away if it's a 70, 80 million pound player. But when it's someone who's going to come in and sort of join the backroom staff or oversee the sort of the manager or whatever, that's a little bit steep. Now, there were reports that Sir Jim Ratcliffe was getting on the phone to the Newcastle United chief exec, Amanda Staveley, and making it happen between those two. Obviously, it hasn't. Now, Ornstein's reporting it's going to go to court or to arbitration, and it could be around May when this gets sorted, and it could take a few weeks. Hopefully, after that, you can get him in because you want him in for the transfer window. You want him in sooner rather than later, and this could drag on, and you don't want it dragging on. At the minute, he's on gardening leave, and United are sort of stuck in this impasse where we want to bring him in. We've got Jason Wilcox in. We've got Omar Barada. He's coming in as well. It looks like Dan Ashworth could be the final piece of that little puzzle in terms of getting the right people in alongside the manager or above the manager, however you want to look at it. So let me know in the comments what you think about that. Are you keen to get Dan Ashworth in? He's got a very good reputation. We've spoke about it a lot, the work that he's done at the likes of Newcastle, at the likes of Brighton, of course, at the FA. He was part of the setup there that brought Gareth Southgate in and had some success there. Getting to the World Cup semi-final in 2018. He was part of the FA then, I think. So, obviously, well respected and sought after for a reason, because he's been involved in some successful, involved in a lot of success at different clubs and at the FA as well. And United's keen to get this deal done, but it is dragging on a little bit. Another couple of stories to get to as well. Also, just on the sort of Dan Ashworth front, Newcastle, I've looked at Dougie Freedman. Now, Craig Hope, I think, who covers Newcastle I think it's for the Mail. He's all over the Newcastle stories. He was saying that Newcastle looking at Dougie Freedman, that also Manchester United have got an eye on him as well. Dougie Freedman, of course, at Crystal Palace, looking at maybe him coming in some sort of sporting director role. So I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know whether you want Dan Ashworth and Dougie Freedman if you're Manchester United, or whether that's just a little bit like, well, if we don't get Dan Ashworth, we're going to go for him because you want him. I don't know what's going on there. It's one to keep an eye on because there's lots of ifs and buts and maybes there. But he's another one who is well respected in the sort of the football administrator world, if you want to call it that, or the sporting director world. Dougie Freedman, obviously a former player. A lot of people know him from those days. But yeah, he's done a good job at Crystal Palace, overseeing a lot of good transfers for them, bringing in some of the players that are doing rather well, one of which is Michael Olise, who Manchester United have been linked with. And according to the Mail, did you like that little segue there? I thought that was very good for myself. The price tag for Michael Olise is going to be around 60 million quid because they've got Eze as well. He's been sought after, and apparently the reports are that Eze and Olise, both players, will be around the £60 million mark if you want to bring them in. Olise has been linked with Manchester United for the last few months. Looks like he is a bit of a long-term target for the club. If you want to get him in, it's going to be about 60 million. That doesn't surprise me, to be honest with you. I think if you're going to bring in a young player from a Premier League club who's having a decent season as well, you're going to have to pay around that mark. Now, there's some question marks there. He's had a few injuries this season, and I won't call him injury prone, but he has had a few injuries, and you look at someone like Mason Mount who brought in, and He'd had a few injuries last season and this season never got going. Could that put Manchester United off? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what's happening with that one. But if we want to get him, he's going to cost 60 million quid. There's so many reports indicating that. The latest one in the Mail is just one of the newer reports I've seen. I've seen this going back a few months, to be honest with you, on different papers as well. So I'd be surprised if we got him for anything less than that. Let's not forget, we brought in Aaron Wan-Bissaka from Crystal Palace a few years ago for 50 million quid for a right back who played, I think, 1 and a bit full seasons in the Premier League. So Crystal Palace aren't a club that just give away their players, so I would expect us to pay around 60 million. As always, let me know what you think about that one. A couple of other stories as well. There's reports that there's this email that's gone out to staff here at Old Trafford about the cup final arrangements. Now, usually when Manchester United gets to the FA Cup final, the staff, they get free travel and everything's paid for and they get all that sort of jazz. However, under Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he's putting a stop to that, so they're not going to have all the perks that they were getting in the past. I think there's about 1,100 members of staff, I think, that are entitled to these perks. And according to the latest reports, Sir Jim Ratcliffe or Ineos or whoever have sent out an email to staff saying, look, you're not going to get all the freebies that you were going to get in the past. This is part of the new sort of tightening down, or whatever you want to call it, tightening your belts, perhaps, coming under Ineos. So make it out what you will. You might not be bothered. You might look at it as a step forward in the right direction in terms of not wasting money. You might think, you know what, there's nothing wrong with giving staff a few perks. The perks I don't like are when you've got the Glazers taking helicopter trips to the final. That's what annoys me. When they don't go to any games. And then we saw reports, didn't we, last season that they came, I think, to the FA Cup final and to the Carabao Cup final, and I think they came to the Women's Cup final as well. Those are the only 3 games that any of them came to. And I think it cost about £500,000 a pop to bring them over here because they travelled by private jet or helicopter or whatever it was, I forget. So yeah, that's a little bit annoying, but I'm not really that bothered about whether the staff are getting the perks, to be honest with you. You can get involved in the comments and let me know what you think. Right, the other big story doing the round, especially on social media, is the Marcus Rashford story. There was a tweet went out last night, I think it was the United Paradigm or whatever it was called, saying that some of the treatment of Marcus Rashford was cruel and it was abuse. And Marcus Rashford quote tweeted it and he agreed. And he sort of said, you know, thanks, I appreciate your support. It is abuse. It has been for months. Enough is enough, he tweeted. It's around 12:30, 1 a.m. I think this tweet went out, this quote tweet from Marcus Rashford. Now, there's been a big reaction, as you'd expect, on social media. Some people sticking up for Marcus Rashford and saying that the treatment he's had is abuse. Others saying, look, you need to just get on with your football. You haven't been playing well. There's nothing wrong with a bit of criticism. Now, listen, I think criticising footballers is fine. I think criticising Marcus Rashford is fine. I don't think Marcus Rashford has been playing anywhere near to the levels he can play this season. I've said that on a multitude of occasions. However, I think abuse is wrong. And I think there's a difference between criticism and abuse. And you know what the difference is. I don't have to explain that to you. So I can understand it why Marcus Rashford might look at it and go, look, some of the grief I'm getting isn't just criticising my performance. It's personal, it's crossing the line, it is abusive. However, and I've said this so many times, I think for Marcus, the best thing for him to do is perform on the pitch. I'm not saying he deserves abuse. No one does. No footballer does. But he does deserve criticism at times. And I think he can play better than he has been. And the way to silence a lot of the critics is to perform. We saw it last season when he's banging in 30 goals. This season, he's never really got going. We've had moments. And even this season, we've still seen goals against the likes of City, against the likes of Liverpool, likes of Arsenal. But he's not been consistent enough at all. And I think criticism is valid. I do. I think when you play for Manchester United, you are always open to criticism. When you play for Manchester United and you don't perform consistently, like Rashford hasn't, then you can get criticised. There's nothing wrong with that. However, abuse is too much. The problem I've got with what Marcus has done, there's nothing wrong with sticking up for yourself. I don't think it gets us anywhere. I don't think the people that have it in for Marcus Rashford are going to look at his tweet and go, well, that's it now, I'm going to stop. I don't think they have, and you can already see that on social media. It's just, what it's done is the people that have defended him in the past have stuck up for him again. The people that have not just criticised him, people that have abused him, have just carried on. It doesn't get him anywhere, to be honest with you. I think the best way to silence some of the critics or some of the abusers is to perform on the football pitch, starting with the game against Burnley if he is fit. If he bangs in a few goals against Burnley or helps us win the FA Cup at the end of the season, then maybe some of the abuse will stop. Hopefully it will. I don't like seeing Manchester United players get abused, but I think this whole sort of taking to social media to push back, I just don't think it gets him anywhere, to be honest with you. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. Let me know what you think about all those stories in the chat in the comments. Going to be back later on today with The Brew, with Uncle Webby. Maybe he's got some more stories about Skip Rat or whatever else he's got to tell us. We'll also have the preview for the Burnley game. I think the press conference will be today as well from Eric Ten Hag, so we'll have that covered. Make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. I'm Jay Motti outside a very sunny but cold Old Trafford. Thanks for watching.